fruit at an apple got the apple. So our civilization was based on technologies, and one ancestor of ours taught another ancestor how to use a stick. What if an ancestor of ours had telekinetic capabilities, and he could remove the apple from a tree just by a force of thought? If that were the case, we would probably follow a completely different route of development, not a technology-driven civilization route. So all these things which we're doing now is actually preconditioned by our development route. And with the help of various technologies, we are studying nature, and we are treating it respectfully. We are trying to apply our technological knowledge, our knowledge of the nature of things, in order to understand, to grasp things which are ungraspable, incomprehensible. So we're not in alliance with nature, but we are an outside observer. We're observing the nature, and we try to impact the nature. You asked the question about changing DNA? Yes, we'll be able to change DNA, but we're fighting a losing battle. Of course, we can come up with all kinds of cartoons, scary cartoons for kids, showing all kinds of transformations that a human body can undergo. I'm talking about the superheroes, etc. But we'll still be using scientific approach, and we'll be a few steps behind the nature. We should live in harmony with nature, and we should transform ourselves based on other needs. Although plastic surgery, you got the point. Yeah, ladies transform their body to be more attractive, to continue their lineage. And so there is it's as part of their biological activity, biological agenda. We don't know. So we are already a technology-driven civilization. We don't know how we're going to interact with nature. We know we can affect the nature, we can impact the nature, but we're very limited in our capabilities because of the routes we chose in the time immemorial when the first man threw a stick at an apple tree. So who should be responsible for this engagement with nature to ensure that does not result in a catastrophe? We can, program kids in mothers' wombs. We can change our appearance. Probably we'll reach a point where people live for 600 years, and that there will be old people will live for hundreds of years. Well, if you live for 600 years, you will not be giving birth to people because you will lose interest in that. I'm talking about moral, ethical capabilities. This is people will grow weary of life if we become so technologically advanced. I think humans will just become very weary and tired of life, and the new generation will come in our place. But that would be a normal thing. Death is a natural extension of life, so a death of one civilization will result in the creation of another civilization on the planet Earth. I don't see anything dramatic about it. It's dramatic from the standpoint of one single human being, but in terms of the human species and the future life of human species as a biological species, I don't think it's dramatic. Nobody told us that we should look the way we look now. I think we're going to change. If we travel in outer space, if we travel to other planets, we'll be adapting to other planets' environment. Maybe we don't have to go to other planets. Maybe we just maybe we should make space travels in our astral bodies, not in physical form, but in the spiritual form. Okay, if we throw a look at the medicine, because there are many people that need medicine. They cannot afford those medicines because they don't have. We don't have vaccines against cancer or AIDS. There are, medicine barons or magnates that jack up medicine prices. Do you think the development of technologies will overthrow this process? But you think that biotechnologies will still be the realm of the rich, the stomping ground of the rich? Well, I think the world is an unfair place. That's the way it was created from day one. I don't believe in this universal fairness. Well, I still don't believe in that. So the world is an unfair place. It's part of the human nature. So the things you're saying, that's the fact. And yes, there are medical barons, so to say, the, and high-tech treatments can, are something the rich people can afford. But we can choose the vector of development. Maybe we can focus on our consciousness. Maybe instruct our consciousness not to fall sick that often, or give an order, give an instruction to yourself to grow another organ, for example. I was once asked a question why a lizard can grow a tail and a human cannot grow a tail. How come a lizard can instruct itself to grow a tail, and we cannot do that? I guess we can do it, but not very fast. The last question, a narrow, more focused question, similar to what I asked Mr. Kaku. Do you think by 2100, what would be the most relevant things, the most relevant areas, DNA, stem cells? I think these things will develop in parallel. Maybe gene tampering with genes will come to the forefront. Maybe cell technologies. I'm certain that there will be a time when we have nanobots in our bodies taking care of our bodies. But the technological civilization and our gaps in our understanding of nature will always be larger than our technological advancements. We are comprehending nature through technologies, and this actually defines the future course of our development. There's nothing else. Naturally, we're going to improve techniques, methodologies. We'll be applying scientific approaches. That's the route we're going to move on. How are we going to treat cancer in 10 years' time? We know how we're going to do that, because all modern the drugs and medicines that will be effective in 10 years, they're already being developed now. So maybe what is a cancer? I mean, maybe it's a natural way to part with life. We can part with life in different ways. We can, come down with cancer. We can be run down by a car. All of us will die. So maybe it's just one of the ways to leave this world. Thank you, Dmitry. Of course, we're going to ask our fellow panelists on this, but I have a question to Dmitry Mednikov first. Mid-last century, what were we doing? We were sending people to outer space. What are we doing now? We are designing thinner smartphones and tablets. You think that technologies in 70, 80 years' time will still be meeting the needs, the urgent needs of the people? Or do you think we'll be setting for ourselves some super objectives, super goals like Gagarin's first trip to space? Well, thank you very much for the question. I would like to thank my colleague, fellow panelists to the left, who described the world of the future through through the metaphors of the ancient world, the perception of the world through the eyes of the Hellenistic theory, through the philosophical comprehension of this civilization. That is another example of the fact that the greatest minds among our panelists, even the greatest minds resort to the notions and concepts which are 2,000 years old. So the world we're living in now actually was created 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, and in our fantasies we cannot step outside these boundaries. The investments to be made, developments to be had, will first and foremost be based on fantasies, so that the subjective world in which we're existing, the world of physics,